causing that economic challenge that we are facing today really is because of the flotation of naira. That the flotation of naira is what is responsible principally for the economic challenges that we are facing as a country, because we identify that as at then that the flotation of naira, as at when we did that World Press Conference, naira was about 1,650 naira to USD. We identified how that has affected the cost of literally everything, because as an import-dependent nation, if you look at everything in this room, they are literally imported. And because they are literally imported, you have the naira component, the dollar component in almost everything. So whenever the dollar moves up, because that exchange rate has moved up, every other thing majorly are also going to shift. We gave an example that the price of AGO, that we popularly refer to as diesel, that the price of AGO as at then was abysmally high because of the exchange rate. That if the exchange rate was brought to somewhere around 800 to 1,000 naira, that AGO that would refer to as diesel would have been selling for somewhere around 700 to 800 naira. So we were able to identify all that, and we also profile several solutions on what we think government should do. Outside the flotation of naira, we also identified that one of the reasons that food is actually expensive today is because the farmers cannot go to farms in most parts of northern Nigeria. You go to Benue, you are having challenges regarding farmer going to farm. You go to Plateau State, you have the same challenge. In fact, literally, almost every state in the north, we are having these challenges. That people felt that they are not safe to go to farm. So it is a real challenge. And we put up those points that we think that government should do in addressing all these. Another thing we also identified as at then was that today, that if you look at a lot of the inputs that goes into our manufacturing sector, the machineries that we bring in, that the manufacturers bring in, the farm implements that they bring in, they are paying import duties. And that import duties that they are paying is also converted to priced in USD, converted to naira at that exchange rate. And today our exchange rate is quite high. So we encourage government in our last press briefing that government should do everything possible to ensure that the inputs, the things we are bringing into the country, the machineries that we are bringing into the country, that government should remove the import duty, or at what they should pay the exchange rate at a particular rate, so that those that are involved in this sector would be able to bring in this equipment at almost zero interest rate, because this will encourage investment. And if you could see, NECA also came up with similar charges a few weeks ago. I think last week they came up with what they think government could do, and it also aligned with our proposition. It also aligned with the proposal that we put forward there. Although in that proposal, a few things have been touched here and there. If you remember, we also proposed that government should import food, because we are priding ourselves that yes, as a nation, we should feed ourselves. But when we have challenges, we must think out of the box. So we also challenge government in that last press briefing that they should import food, bring in food for people to eat. Because when, we all know, simple economics, when supply is down and demand is high or constant, the price is going to go up. So that is exactly what is happening today. And thank God, government has already said they want to bring in some food item in with a zero tax imposed. But we are saying that it should be much more deeper than that. It is not just about the federal government, the state government as well, the subnationals. There should be that level of partnership, strong level of partnership between the three levels of government, because this crisis is hitting, this hunger crisis is biting literally everyone. So, judging from our last press briefing as well, some of the proposals that we made there, we still stand by them today. We submitted, after that press briefing, we had a meeting with government, we submitted our position to government. So we are still demanding that that position that we have submitted to government, that they should still look at it with the view of implementing most of those provisions. Few of them have been touched here and there, but there are still some salient ones that we think that when it's done, that this current economic hardship that we are facing would be ameliorated. Gentlemen of the press, as you are aware, the press has been aware of some of the issues, the remarks that has been made by some of the actors in government vis-a-vis the Dangote refinery. For us, we feel and we strongly believe that Dangote is one huge investment that has, invested in Nigeria. When there are challenges, what they should do literally is everybody sit down together to find solutions. Because we want this statement to be, let them lower the tempo. Let all the unguarded statements be stopped forthwith. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria should bring all of them together and give them a matching order to go and resolve whatsoever issues that they have. Because the challenges that you may have, whenever we go to the press, whenever we go to public, and we keep castigating one another, we keep castigating each other, it is going to drive away investment. As a country and as people, we need massive investment in Nigeria. We can only have massive investment when the economic conditions are right. We can only have massive investment when the prevailing environment is investment friendly. So we want these rhetorics to stop. We want the president to call these people to order. Let all of them sit down together and find solution to whatsoever challenges that they are facing. We are not quite interested in what the issues are, but we are concerned by the rhetoric that is in the public sphere and in the public space, because it will tend to drive away investors. So the buck stops at the president's table. He should invite all of them and get this matter resolved forthwith. Comrades, about the media has been also aware regarding issues about the protest that is called, I think, sometime next week or thereabout. As a Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, we have been involved in several protests. We are also happy with some of the comments that we are hearing from different quarters, assuring that when the protests do take place, that these people will be protected. Because our concern really, we have several affiliates whose jobs and whose functions are out there in public. So we don't want a situation whereby the protest goes on and at the end of the day it leads to violence. So we want to hereby call on the Inspector General of Police and the entire security agency to do everything possible to provide security for whoever intends to carry out protests, so that such protests will not degenerate into chaos, because we are very keen on that. Because when it degenerates to chaos, when it degenerates to violence, when hoodlums, hijack such protests, it may lead to several issues. And part of those issues will also be vandalization that we have also observed. And in most cases, people that are vandalized are downtrodden Nigerians like you and I. So the Inspector General of Police and the security outfits in Nigeria must ensure that whoever is to protest must be adequately protected, because the right to protest is actually guaranteed in the Nigeria Constitution. The comrades, lastly, on the issue of the minimum wage, because we will not have a press briefing without a bit talking about the minimum wage that was passed by the National Assembly just yesterday, on Tuesday. Yeah, passed by the National Assembly on Tuesday. First, we wish to thank the National Assembly for the speed with which they used in passing the National Minimum Wage Act, or the National Minimum Wage Bill into an act. If you could remember, when the national anthem was changed with that level of speed, we posed a challenge to them that they should use the same speed in passing the national minimum wage. When we paid a visit to the Senate and the House of Reps, as conveyed by them just before the last national strike, they actually we had some bantering on this, and we told them the way you pass the national anthem with the speed of light, that whenever the bill is submitted to you, we want you to also pass the same bill, pass the national minimum wage bill with such speed. And we were quite elated when that happened in the floor of both houses, both the Senate and House of Reps on Tuesday. So, comrades, gentlemen of the press, you are all aware that the national minimum wage was agreed between the organized labor and the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on Thursday last week. And I just want to bring us to speed on some of the indices that led us to the acceptance of this figure. As you are aware, that negotiations such as this is a tripartite negotiation. Organized labor, organized private sector, and government. And within the government, you have different strata of government. You have federal, you have state, and you have local government. And we are all aware on the seesaw that we saw during these negotiations and during these conversations. And we have also listened to a lot of comments and commentaries that have emanated since Thursday last week, when the news broke that the president had mentioned 70,000 naira that we said we were going to take to our respective organs. You know, in minimum wage negotiation or any wage increment negotiation, it is always backed by data. It is always backed by fact. When we were going into that conversation, when we were going into that negotiation, on our part, we strived for a living wage. On our part, we were not talking about minimum wage. What we submitted to government, 615,000 naira, was actually a living wage. But when we got to the table, they told us that all they want to discuss is minimum wage, and that they weren't there to discuss the concept of living wage. Why did we push in that regard to discuss issues around living wage? Because we felt that with the challenges that Nigerians are facing today, that we should not be looking at just minimum wage, but a living wage. And secondly as well, gentlemen of the press, we also heard from grapevine that government across all levels, that they were looking at 50,000, that at best, that they were looking at the sum of 55,000 naira, that was where they want to place the cap. So when we heard that they want to underprice us, on our part as well, we also needed to overcut them. So these were the thoughts that went into the submission of 615,000 naira. But in doing all these, we understand that when the chiefs are down, when what we need to discuss is the concept of minimum wage, that there are some certain principles that guide negotiations all over the world. And chief of them is inflation. So inflation is what guides negotiations, salary increments, and wage increments all over the world. So in our quiet corner, we did our own analysis. And in that analysis, we said that this was within us, that the last minimum wage that was signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari was 30,000 naira, and it was signed on the 18th day of April 2019. So, in our calculation, if you take 18th day of April to 2019 to 18th of April 2020, what was the inflation figure? If you look at the slide that we have there, the inflation figure was 12.34. Then if you take the inflation figure in April 2021, from the slide there, it was 18.12. And if you take for April 2022, it was 16.82. Then for April 2023, it was 22.22. Then for April 2024, it was 33.69. So in our own reserve position, we did the simulation. We applied the inflation figure as stated in that graph. We applied that of 2020, we applied that of 2021, we applied that of 2022, we did that up till 2024. And if you apply it, it will bring us to somewhere around 75,900 or thereabouts. So that is when you apply, when you compound the inflation figure. This is compounded. But if it's just a simple addition, it will be much less than that. But we took the upper end, which is compounding it. Those of you that are mathematically savvy will understand that computation. So when we did that, it came to about 75,000 naira plus. So our reserve position that we were actually pushing was that if government could give us up to 75,000 naira, what that means is that we have covered the inflation 100%. But as negotiation could have it, looking at all the legs, looking at all the components, even the organized private sector, you have the small scale enterprise, you have the nano enterprise, you have gentlemen of the press for the beautiful question that we asked. Let me start from the very last one. Yes, the 70,000 naira that was agreed, it was also backed up that it will be done every 3 years. You know, when you see that presentation there, the ideal should have been 75,000 naira plus when you adjust for inflation from 2019 till date. So it is actually better for you to go slightly lower, accept 70,000 naira for 3 years, than to accept the ideal, which is 75,000 naira plus for 5 years. So wisdom calls for that. Then it is always part of the law. It is always part. We have not seen the law as passed. We have not also read it. But our expectation is that it's going to be part of the law. Because if you look at all minimum wage laws that are passed, like the one of 2019, 5 years was stated there in the law. So we know that this one that was also passed on Tuesday, that 3 years time frame should be there. The reason I'm using should is that as of today, we are making effort as at this moment to obtain what was passed. And we believe that before the end of today, we should be able to get a copy of what was passed. But we strongly believe that it is there. Then on the issue of Yes, because during the negotiations at 12, it was agreed. Mr. President made the pronouncement. We all agreed that okay, that's the way to go. So we don't expect anything to the contrary. Yes, the committee also did the same thing at 12, the tripartite committee. So on the issue of the price of PMS, you know, what we identified is actually the flotation of Naira and the exchange rate. Let me give you an instance. If the official price of Naira today, the official price, is what it was as at May 29, 2023. It was about 450 Naira, correct? To a dollar. If we still maintain, if the CBN was still able to stabilize Naira around that range, with the deregulation, PMS would have been selling for less than 350 Naira per litre. AGO would have been selling for around 400 Naira per litre. So that is why we identified the principal challenge, the principal issue that underpins most of these high prices we are paying as the flotation of Naira. Because if Naira wasn't floated, if Naira was not allowed to run the way it has run, most of these items, including PMS, including AGO, including aviation fuel, wouldn't have been where it is today. The reason we are paying high flight costs is actually because the cost of aviation fuel has gone down south. But if the Naira was strong, it wouldn't have been like that. So AGO was just an example to buttress the fact that if the Naira was strong, that these prices would have since receded. If Naira was managed around 450 Naira to a dollar, you've heard what are projected, that what we have projected that AGO price would have been, that PMS price would have been. Ditto, almost everything. The price that you use today in buying your television, the price you use today in buying these microphones, the price you use today in buying literally everything would have been much more competitive and would have been much more cheaper. So to the other question that borders on okay, so the question was asked about the consequential adjustment. You know, it is not actually, you don't discuss the consequential adjustment during minimum wage conversations. Minimum wage conversation is, you have discussed minimum wage. It's a standalone item. So we have discussed it. Then in minimum wage, you also discuss when next you will come back. You will also discuss maybe a few exemptions if there are any. Then at the end, you will now get a percentage. So that percentage is what the salaries, income and wages commission. They are the ones that will not sit down. Even in 2019, they are the ones that sat. They will not do the computation and come up with a spreadsheet on how this will apply across grades. And that is what we call consequential adjustment. So that consequential adjustment is actually done by the National by the National Salaries and Income and Wages Commission. The formula will come out. Then the Joint Negotiation Council will now sit down to see to the implementation of it. But on our part, our desire is always that percentage, that 33% should be applied equally across board. So from grade level 1 to grade level 17, apply the 133% equally. Yes, and across different steps. But at the end of the day, the agencies that is saddled with that responsibility will come out with what they think. But we will have those conversations with them. If they come out with a table that we think is not favorable to our members, we will also object. So we'll have a to and fro bantering until we reach what we think is proper and it's okay for our members.
Solidarity
forever. Then on the issue of the association, yes, information got to us yesterday that Association of Senior Sports of Nigeria is one of our biggest affiliates, if not the biggest affiliate. The biggest affiliate of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria cannot be taken over by hoodlums. We learned yesterday that hoodlums took over the Secretariat of Senior Civil Servants. So when we heard about that, it was that you have some miscreants that took over the Secretariat. So we needed to reach out to the authorities. And the authorities acted promptly. If you go there today now, you'll see that they drove all of them out since yesterday. And I think maybe they even arrested a few. So for us, we want to thank the Inspector General of Police, and we want to also thank all those from Force Headquarters that assisted us in this regard. So I think the place is cool and calm now, and things are going about in the natural order.
Solidarity forever.
Yes, so in the Collins, you asked about the issue of the protest. You know, Collins, you are a veteran labor reporter, and you know clearly and you know very well that when you are organizing issue of protest, you need to sit down, have conversations, you have meetings, you plan for protest, right? So as of today, nobody has reached out to us that they want to protest. Nobody has asked for our collaboration. We don't even know those that want to protest. So how do you expect us to participate in a protest that we don't even know who is organizing it? We don't even have any idea whatsoever what is going to happen. So as an institution, you also know too that we have various organs that we run some of these things with. The leadership has never sat down one day on its own to call for strike or a protest. But instead, we call organ meetings to do these reviews. So the question is that who is protesting? So the same way you saw it in the media, the same way we are saying it. So you just come out and so it's something that we don't really know who is organizing, we don't really know who is protesting, but all we know is that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is very clear on the issue of peaceful protests. And the Police Act also mandated the police that when there is a protest, you should ensure that there is law and order. You should ensure that those that are protesting are also protected. And that is why we are also, reminding them of that provision in the Police Act and the provision in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that those provisions in the law should be respected. So, simpliciter, we don't know who is protesting. Nobody has contacted us. Maybe they have contacted us, we would have called our organ meetings for us to review. So as of today, there's clearly nothing to discuss. There's clearly nothing to review. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.